Hey, this is Ethereize.It, a submission to the Wyoming Hackathon, which attempts to bridge the divide between the virtual jurisdictions of blockchains and the real-world jurisdictions of states such as Wyoming. You may or may not be aware that Wyoming has passed some legislation which has made it a exceptionally great place to incorporate a blockchain company. However, it's still not really clear how DAOs and similar entities will interact with the state. This is by no means a complete solution, but I'm pretty sure this is like a good step in the right direction. So the main functionality that we did for the hackathon was to be able to register an LLC using MetaMask, and moreover, to be able to link a legal entity to a blockchain address. So at the beginning, you can choose which jurisdiction. We imagine that there will be other options here in the future, including perhaps jurisdictions built on top of Ethereum, such as Aragon. We'll go ahead and put in test entity name. So this is another important part about the Wyoming legislation, is that they've enabled people to create series LLCs, which could be particularly ideal for tech companies that are able to sort of create a child LLC for every single one of the projects. So that way, there's less people stepping on each other's toes. You can sort of decentralize things more effectively that way. So the next selection is another really interesting part about Wyoming's recent legislation, is that instead of just having humans be in control over LLCs, you can have a public key. So for the sake of this demo, it's just going to be a MetaMask address. But we envision in the near future, you'll be able to instead have this be your DAO's address, and for any decisions issued by that DAO to be legally binding or legitimate, in the state of Wyoming's eyes. Just go ahead and skip that stuff for now. And here, so the crypto account type, for now, we're just doing personal, which is used as MetaMask. But if you have a DAO or even something that runs on another smart contract platform, we will provide you with a bit of code to execute from that wallet, and moreover, a clause to put into your legal entity's constitution, its operating agreement, which specifies that it views actions taken by that address as being valid or binding. So I'll go ahead and grab my key. Again, right now, this is just sort of standard boilerplate, but we envision a more complex system for generating constitutions that allows people to really start experimenting with new types of governance. And right now we have two partners that we're looking at working with who actually do the paperwork, right? This is still not a fully automated process. There's still a certain amount of human interaction needed to fill out the forms to submit them to the Secretary of State. However, there is a large movement right now in Wyoming towards the goal of sort of automating that, or at least opening up Wyoming's API, so that way we can start to reduce the need for middlemen in managing businesses. So right now you can choose different options. These are just for display right now. It's not actually hooked up to any of these agents. But once we have that, we go ahead and hit preview agreement. This generates the operating agreement. It includes the name that you put into it. It also includes this key piece right here, where it specifies this address as being a principal. It's an owner. So we go ahead and save that. Close, go back down. Now we import. And now we hit register. There we go. Cool. All right, we don't need that one. Just do this one. Eventually, this will cost more Ether if you want to actually have it registered in Wyoming, but we figure if you want to just specify on the Ethereum blockchain that this entity is mine and here's the constitution's hash and all that stuff, then we can do that functionality as well without having to pay a registered agent. Cool, it got confirmed. So now we can go back to the first page, look up a link, and we type in the address that we just registered. And it tells us, here is the hash of the constitution, the owner, which jurisdiction it's incorporated in. Notarization is something we envision later, for especially for DAOs, where you want to have a single person sort of submit this first process, and then you want to have the DAO confirm that this is a legitimate linkage or not. But this is ideally meant for sort of the accountants, the bureaucrats who want to then make sure that this linkage is going both directions. That's what we sort of came to the conclusion of in order to get this started, these hybrid LLC DAOs, is that both sides have to point to each other, and then you can start to play around with these hybrids. Of course, this is just the start. We're going to have to see all of this play out in Wyoming's jurisdiction, but there is a very active community there that is really striving for the adoption of these, and moreover, they seem to be ready to fight the federal regulators if need be in order to move things along. All right, well, thank you for joining me, and hope this project continues onwards. We think this can essentially be used for managing your entire entity, from one place, whether that be changing your constitution or adding sub LLCs, different members, all that stuff, all from the same place, and all of it signed on the Ethereum blockchain as well, if you want it to be.